Rapheal Davis joins us, Golden Black Live. Uh, we've been talking a lot lately. That's a good thing, I think. But Ray, you're a busy man, a lot going on in your world as a BTN analyst, working with the youth of Fort Wayne in basketball and beyond. NIL, being involved with the Boilermaker Alliance. You're wearing a lot of hats, but let's talk a little football on the front end. Even though you were a basketball guy, you understand team sport about as well as anybody. Saw Purdue play in person last week against Indiana State. You've played in hostile environments. That's the definition of college basketball. But Purdue's going to be running into one next on Saturday up at Syracuse. Just as an athlete, how do you prepare for something like that mentally? What do you do to get your mind right and ready to go?
You just focus on your preparation. You focus on making sure your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed. The little things really matter, especially when you go on the road. You want to take care of the ball, and that's no matter what sport you're playing. When you're on the road, no silly turnovers, no silly penalties. Don't beat yourself. So things like that. But then also just stick to what you've been doing. You could tell they had it. You could tell they knew that they felt they should have won against Penn State, and they came out with a laser focus against Indiana State from the very beginning. So you just got to keep that same exact focus, that same exact intensity, and just bottle it up. So I think they have I think the quarterback is a great leader. I think they have a great locker room to be able to go on the road and get them one. But I think it's just about playing hard, doing the little things, and don't beat yourself.
Now, your hometown is Fort Wayne. The Fort Wayne posse is still a big part of Purdue football. Lawrence Johnson and company. When you watch and when you're watching Purdue football, obviously eyes are on Charlie Jones, O'Connell, et cetera, the skill guys. But what do you focus on when you're watching? What lights your wick?
I watch it. He's taking care of the ball, not turning it over. I watch the energy on the sideline when plays that necessarily aren't the big plays happen, to see who's rooting for who, just kind of the body language and whatnot. But then just making sure if everybody's executing on the same page. And you can have a great play, you may drop the pass, but sometimes you can understand when something should have worked, it could have worked, or you can see if something just out of whack. So I just try to pay attention to see if everybody's on the same page, see where the communication is, and see if there's a fight to you. I think this year's team has a real edge to them and a fight to them.
You went through that a lot in your playing days. Went from a team that finished last place. You had to get that momentum back. You were a great leader in getting that back in your time as a defensive player of the year, but also what you brought to the table your junior and senior years. But what's that like? Again, keeping that fight and this team 2 years ago in COVID, everybody in COVID had to struggle as to keep things on the same page. What's that like, getting that fight back and getting that so that you have that competitive advantage as you get to the court of the football field?
It's just you're in a big stage. This is why you come to Purdue. This is why you play in the Big Ten. Purdue is to the point now where you expect to win some games. So you expect to be at the highest level. You want to be in front of the full crowds, under the lights, night games, and you got to amp yourself up. And if that going out under the lights against Penn State for that first game of the season, that doesn't amp you up, you might be in the wrong place at this point when you think about Purdue, you think about where they are as a program. So I think little things like that, knowing what you're going into, having the energy, being energized about the right things. I think this year's team is energized about wins, energized about winning. I think the teams where, because I don't know if you remember when I came in last place in the Big Ten, the football team came in last place in the Big Ten as well, same year.
Yeah.
So the energy seems a little different. That team didn't seem to have the same type of care about winning, and that's just my opinion. But you'll see games after they lost in training table where we would eat at it, whatnot, it would feel like they won games. And I think this year's team, I think they're still thinking about the Penn State loss, even though you just beat a team about 56-0. That loss is still sitting with them. I think you got to carry that throughout the rest of the season, have that chip on your shoulder.
They always say about sports, people tend to write teams off. There's us media folks pay way too much attention to game one. You buy that? I mean, we all across the line. if you can use game one, even if you lose it to your advantage, it's going to make a heck of a difference down the road. You buy that theory?
Yeah, I buy it. I mean, you never really, in my opinion, too, especially in sports, you only lose the game if you didn't learn from it. And it looked like that Indiana
Yeah.
State, they learned from that loss against Penn State. They,
Yeah.
whether it was the passing attack, the running game was there, everything that you felt was off, although it was, I guess you would say, lesser competition, it still was there. The execution was there. And I think that's big time. And I think you got to use that throughout the rest of the season. And I know it's basketball, but I look back to completely different things. But I look back to certain games like losing to Gardner Webb or losing to North Florida. Those type of losses we took in Matthew really propelled us through that January in that Big Ten season and really got it. It really shifted the year, because you look at that non-conference of my junior year, the year after we finished last place, I'm sure there were fans when we lost to North Florida. It was 4 games in a row: North Florida, Gardner Webb, Vanderbilt, and I think Notre Dame, Indianapolis. And I'm sure there were people writing us off. I mean, same season as last year. We had 5 new freshmen. The Big Ten season, hopefully we finish middle of the pack. And we end up finish, I think, tied for 3rd in the Big Ten that year. So you got to be able to take that energy, take it into practice, and understand that although they're writing you off, although people are saying things, it's just you and your teammates in the locker room. And you can see all the things. They see everything on Twitter. They see everything. Coaches print stuff off and put it in the locker and things like that. So it's about staying focused and staying with your guys and having the same goal.
All right. Speaking of focus, your hoodie there, the Crew Life moniker, very, very important to you, but also very, very important to a lot of kids where you come from. Tell us a little bit about that and what your role has been. We've talked about it on other shows, but this audience needs to hear a little bit about what you've got involved with that.
Yeah, it's Crew Life is a nonprofit that I started a couple years ago, surrounded around a few different things. Youth development, youth sports. The reason we started it, like I said, a few different reasons, is that one, youth basketball is just astronomically expensive now. You got teams charging $1,500, $2,000 for AAU teams, $300-$400 for camps and whatnot. And just a lot of kids, especially in the inner city or whatnot, they just can't afford youth basketball anymore. And it sounds crazy. The YMCA is no longer in my neighborhood. The church leagues, all of those youth leagues are now gone. I just counted yesterday. There's more men's leagues in my neighborhood than there's youth leagues. And that's the problem there. Yeah. Now you look at the youth crime rate, everything is just out of whack. And then basketball has just gone down in a sense where Fort Wayne had a run when you start with Cam Stevens, who actually went to Purdue for a little bit. He played in my high school. Yeah. You go all the way through from Cam Stevens, Marcus Johnson, Deshaun Thomas, Justin Jordan, Bryson Scott, myself, James Blackman, VJ Beacham. There's a lot of Keon Brooks, Malik Williams, Sidney Curry. It's a lot of guys that come out of Fort Wayne, that come out of not just Fort Wayne, but come out of my area, with Ashante Jones, who ended up in Nebraska. Just a lot of different talent, and where the last couple of years it's been non-existent. And it's because at the youth level, it isn't pushed anymore. And then if you're not, like me, I was 6'3" with a mustache in 8th grade. If you're not that 8th grader, you're not coming to play for free. You know what I mean? You're not being invited to the best team. So a lot of the kids get pushed to the wayside and they have to figure that out. And then, so we support that. We offer free basketball camps, free teams, and free leagues to play on for kids that can't afford it. But then also, for kids that just aren't going to make your varsity team, those kids that love basketball but just aren't going to maybe not even make your 8th grade team, but just love it. Mm-hmm. We provide those kids with opportunities to stay in basketball without actually being a player, showing them different avenues of using basketball to basically pay your bills for the rest of your life. You look at Drew Anthrop, video coordinator with the Lakers. Look at Chad Young, physical therapist with the Purdue basketball team. Different professions where you could not be the basketball player, but you could be on a basketball team. So we try and teach them different things, and we take college trips. We just took our college campus trip to Purdue. We got to go up to our campus with Caleb First. We got to see Kyle Orton be inducted to the Indiana Hall of Fame. Coach Painter hosted us at practice the next day. He talked with the guys, joked with the guys. They got to meet the players, take pictures and whatnot. Tour Mackey, go tailgating, see a football game. Then after the football game, Brendan Newman came back over to the house and hung out. And it's one of the things where we plan to do that at a lot of different universities to get the kids to one, see what college is like. Two, want to go to college, because now the kids understand that this is a lot more fun than what I think high school fun could be, if that makes sense. And sometimes kids want to have the best time in high school. They don't understand. If you don't know what a Saturday football, what that looks like, what tailgates looks like, how much fun it is, you don't know what you're striving for. You know what I mean? Or how to place your goals in order. And I think these kids really love Purdue. They all want to go to Purdue now. We have one kid wants to be a mechanical engineer. So I think it's a lot of fun being able to grow minds, support the youth, but also be a resource and an advocate for the parents and let them know that you're not out here alone. Because I know growing up myself, I look back and I was just talking with a friend yesterday. I look back, I always look at my high school basketball team and I look at where the guys are now. Yeah. But actually yesterday, I looked back at my 11-year-old youth football team. I looked at my community football team. Yeah. And I look across that picture, and there's probably 30 of us on the picture, and half of the guys are passed or in jail. It's not an exaggeration. It's to the point where I look at the picture and this guy's family may have murdered this guy's family. And we're all in the youth kids in the same exact picture. So it's a thing where if we could grow the kids up, not just from a youth age, but keep them together through high school, be mentors through college, we could really do some change within our community. And I really believe that you could grow a kid up and they could go off and be the next NBA basketball player. You may have that every few years, every 10, you may have an overseas great player or whatnot. But if you grow up, we took our 8 boys that we took to Purdue. If we grow them up, and maybe they're not NBA players, but they all can make $80,000 to $100,000, support their family, be able to do good things in their community, come back from time to time and show another 8 boys how to do that, which shows another 8 boys how to do that. Then you're really bringing in a cash flow into your neighborhood if it's really done the right way, and you're not dependent on others to change things. And I think it just starts within.
Yeah, no question. Your work is great. And I did get a chance to see them a little bit. They had stars in their eyes. It was a big deal, at least at the Kyle Orton event. Those kids knew they were in a good place, and that's a great thing that you're doing. When you look at Caleb first, you'd mentioned that and his role, and I think it's really interesting because partly due to now some of the things that you can do because of NIL, but his role in camps, but your role with him, and that he comes from a different place, even though he's a Fort Wayne guy. Talk about that a little bit and the role that Purdue sophomore has made, and then maybe the difference he's made with some of your kids.
It's big time because you look at it's basketball, and basketball I always say is a bridge builder. It's a community connector. And you look at some of the kids that come to our camp, they're not going to go to Black Hawk Christian. They don't know where Black Hawk Christian is. I've never played out there or whatnot. You look at Caleb first, he's never been to some of the community centers that we go to our camps in, or some of the parks that we have our camps and leagues at. So one, it's a community connector where it can bridge the gap between communities. But then two, we have our camps at OPS. Most of our camps at OPS out north from Fort Wayne. And that's where you'll see Caleb First train and Luke Goody from Illinois train, or Fletcher Lawyer, those guys. Our kids get to see those guys work out or whatnot. So we'll be at camp on one court and those guys will be on another court. And they look like celebrities. They look like celebrities, NBA players, although they're in college. The guys really look at them and they look up to them, especially being from their hometown. So I really think that having Caleb be a part of what we're doing not only opens his eyes up to more what's going on in his entire city, but it gives the kids, he's no longer just someone they can look up to. He's someone they can touch now. Right. And sometimes when you can touch it, you really feel like you can do it. So now he's no longer the 7-foot guy that can shoot threes with his left hand. It's Caleb First. Now they feel like he's one of them. He's one of the guys. He jokes with them. He plays with them. They understand that he's just a normal person that worked hard, and he can give them tips. He can find out which Caleb was really good at, and Brandon Newman was as well. You can kind of find out which players out of a group want to be the basketball players, and then you can really kind of hone in on them. And I think with Caleb, having that intuition and having that knack, just he was a good kid. Now you can understand that he just want to give it back. I think it's big, and I think it's for the NIL, for the NIL and the Alliance to do something good with NIL and be able to, not even just because it's my organization or whatnot, but you see these young men, they're in a great position. They can use their influence to push youth sports, to push young men to do something they've never done. Caleb's pre-med. He got to talk to the kids about being pre-med as a college basketball player. You know what I mean? It's just Brandon Newman's a fifth-year senior. He got to talk to the kids about what that feels like. So I think it's just huge what the NIL, what the Alliance allows, and the relationships and the hope that it could really give the kids, and they really feel a part of something. They feel a part of Purdue. You can't, if Caleb first has a good game this season, they're going to go to school and tell everybody in the school that that's their friend. So it just, it's going to hit different a little bit.
Yeah, Caleb First, I think, is going to have some good games this year too. He's going to be a really, really good player in time. All right, people see you also on the Big Ten Network and that role. Tell us a little bit about what that has been like, and looking ahead to Big Ten basketball this year. What do you see around the league? I mean, it's going to be an interesting season. Purdue will be in the mix, but maybe not the favorite this year, but some teams out there. So tell us a little bit about what's going to be happening with you this winter.
No, it's been a lot of fun being with the Big Ten Network. Great leadership, great group of guys in the studio, great guys to work with, great guys to answer to, my bosses. It's just been a pleasure. I'm glad that they are allowing me to do it another year this year. We start with Media Day next month up out in Minneapolis, so that should be a lot of fun. I didn't get to do Media Day last year, so this will be my first time being on the media side, so it'll be a lot of fun. But this year in the Big Ten, I know everyone's put Indiana as the favorite, I guess you would say. That's what it looks like as now. I think that's just because they have everybody coming back and have some 5 stars coming in, but for me, in my opinion, I think this is one of the tougher years, not only to pick a top 5 teams in the Big Ten and list them out, but also you pick a preseason top 5 team that's not all centers. It's just this year in the Big Ten is wide open, in my opinion, where every team has question marks. You look at Iowa, who's going to step into Keegan Murray's role, Wisconsin, the same with Johnny Davis. Purdue, you lost so much. Indiana, even though you return everything, who's going to make shots? And as a freshman coming in, a lot. Kendall Stevens had a lot on his shoulder as a freshman, dependent to make shots. But when you're expected to win games, as although Indiana will be, someone's going to have to make shots. So you're going to have 2 or 3 guys that need to shoot close to 40% from 3. And last year, they just didn't have that. I go to Ohio State. They have Ohio State will most likely have a freshman point guard. They're figuring things out. Penn State, they're returning Steph Lundy and Jalen Pickett, but they're not. Their front line is very light in the pants when you look at losing John Hare and some of the guys that transferred out. Maryland with the new coach. Rutgers has a good core. You look at Caleb McConnell, Paul Mulcahy, and Cliff Amore, but those 3 guys aren't scorers. They have some transfers coming in, so who's going to score the ball? And then Michigan State kind of the same thing as last year in the sense of who's going to be the guy. Who's going to be the guy when you need a basket to go and get it? They don't necessarily have a big man necessarily. They're not deep. You look at Akins, just took an injury, so he's out now. Michigan is Michigan, Hunter Dickinson will be an All-American, but the surrounding pieces are all new. So I think with the league this year, every team from top to bottom has some things where you can say, oh, they could lose games. But I look at teams like, or even like Illinois, they have a talented, very talented roster if you look at it player by player. But if you really dive into it, they all pretty much play the same position. Or it's kind of, how is that going to flow when they're all wings? You don't really have a lot of guards or a true big man. So I'm looking at teams. I'm looking at not just who they're returning, but the year you're in and kind of Because I think you look at a Penn State and with their core guys, Miles Dredd, Seth Lundy, Jalen Pickett,
Yeah.
having experience in the Big Ten and winning in the Big Ten already. When not say they just came in 11th place, but they just took Purdue. They could have went to the Big Ten championship in the tournament. Having that experience and knowing how to win in the Big Ten, it could give them an edge over a team like Illinois coming on the road, new team, new pieces. They may take Penn State lightly, but when you look at Penn State, they figure some things out. So this year, I wouldn't be surprised by a lot. I think if I was to make a top 5, I would go in no particular order. I would probably go Indiana, Michigan State, Purdue, Iowa, and Rutgers. I think that would be my 5. I think I would start with. I know a lot of people are putting Illinois up high, and we have such a new team. You got to prove it to me. And a lot of every single guy on that roster is stepping into a brand new role. It's not a guy that's returning into his role. So that's going to be even the transfers, they're stepping into bigger roles. So that's going to be interesting to see. I look at Purdue and I look at Purdue and I look at the teams like a Lewis Jackson, Robbie Hummel, that 2012 team, or the Grady Eifert, Ryan Klein team, where you lose so much, you lose that group of seniors. It's more of a rebuild. But the guys you're rebuilding with we're starters. You look at Mason Gillis and Zach Edey, but we're the backups. When you think about Ethan and those and guys like Brandon Newman being the backup in practice and whatnot. So they really are, and they've been together for 4 years. These guys they came in together, so they know each other. They know how to play. They know each other's tendencies and whatnot. So I see that as being more of a plus than you get guys with 4 or 5 transfers coming in talented, because they have that core there. So it's going to be exciting to see. The guard spot is wide open. I'm a guy that I've been thinking about this all week, that when you look at a preseason Big Ten team or preseason conference team, it's a little easier if you just go Zach Edey, Hunter Dickinson, Trey Jackson Davis, and you throw all those guys. I don't know if Big Ten does it differently with 10 guys, but if you're really focusing on 5, I would rather it go position to position. So or if it's just wings and guards and bigs, and it doesn't have to be point guard, shooting guard, but wings, guards, bigs. If you look at this year, what guards are you going to choose? What wings are you going to choose? And I think that helps the league. That helps competition-wise. It'll be a lot of unknowns, and the Big Ten will be relatively slept on to start the year, especially because how they performed in the last couple of years in the tournament. So I think that also helps. There won't be any crazy expectations, but this could also be a year you get 7 or 8 teams in the tournament.
Yeah. Interesting analysis, and it's going to be a fun thing to watch. Not only your work, but it'll be basketball season before long. Media day up in Minneapolis here in mid to late October, as I understand it. So, Ray, thanks so much for your time. We were grateful for that. And if people want to support your foundation, give us a URL or a website they can go to, or places they can contact you.
You can contact me. My personal cell at 260-348-1349. 260-348-1349. You call me or text me. I normally answer unless my phone is just away from me. But you go to my website, RaphealDavisBasketball.com. Rapheal Davis, that's Rapheal Davis basketball.com. You can donate there. Reach out to me on Twitter. Anyone that wants to be a part or would like to support, whether it's financially or physically, coming to speak with the kids, if you have a very interesting profession and you want the kids to know about it, and maybe they can follow that route and be a mentor that way, we would love to be a part.
All right. There ain't many guys to give their personal cell phone over that, but no, we appreciate that. That shows you're committed, and it's all comers, my friend. Anybody that can help, you're going to take them in. That part I know, and that's a great thing you do. Great guy. You're an inspiration to all of us, Ray, and we appreciate that. We will be back for our next Golden Black Live, and look forward to doing that with Mark Herman, Purdue for Life, and John Purdue Club guy, and he was also a Hall of Fame member and a creative cradle of quarterback. We'll look forward to that interview too. Ray, have a great rest of your weekend, and thanks again for taking the time to join us.
Thanks.